it's more complicated than this, but it's, in a lot of ways, it's kind of like a Fitbit in your skull with tiny wires.
A Fitbit in your skull with tiny wires. I guess that was the most quoted thing from the whole Neuralink update, which was streamed a couple of days ago. And after watching the full stream, I selected a couple of clips which explain what the link, their device, is all about. And I just wanted to share those with you and cut the hour-long stream into like a 10-minute video, maybe discuss them a bit and how they could be possibly used in the future.
Current prototype version 0.9 has about 1,000 channels, so that's about 100 times better than the next best consumer device that's available. And it's a 23 millimeters by 8 millimeters. It actually fits quite nicely in your skull because your skull is about 10 millimeters thick. So it fits, it goes flush with your skull, it's invisible, and all you can see afterwards is that there's a tiny scar. And if it's under your hair, you can't see it at all. In fact, I could have a Neuralink right now, and you wouldn't know. Maybe I do. So, and it's also got all the things that you would expect to see, the sensors you'd expect to see in a smartwatch or a phone, like notional measurement, temperature, pressure. So there's actually a lot of functions that this device could do related to monitoring your health and warning you about a possible heart attack or stroke or other damage, as well as sort of convenience features like playing music. You can do a lot. It's sort of like if your phone went at your brain or something. Yeah, maybe that's not a great analogy. Anyway, so it's also inductively charged. So,
well, for one, it's great that it's inductively charged because you wouldn't want to stick a wire up in your head or take the device each night to charge it. But getting to the main specs of the device, I think all of those I just made in line with thinking what we wanted to achieve. So let's just start from the bottom. All-day battery life, well, you don't really want to charge it twice a day because, well, you have to do stuff and the thing is in your head, you can't really take it out. The megabit wireless data rate, you want to monitor the neuron activity real-time 24/7, so that's a must. Temperature, pressure, well, that at least explains the Fitbit bit in the beginning.
a Fitbit in your skull with tiny wires.
Flush with skull and the size are pretty much the same thing because I think the size is selected by the measurements of the skull, so it would be flush with it. And the number of channels is, if I'm correct, 10 times bigger than the next in their competition. What's currently available on the market, well, not really consumer market, but still there's a market. I think the specs are just derived from the ideas and aims of the Neuralink itself. So knowing those, what we should check out now is, well, how does one get a Neuralink? And spoiler, it's by a robot, which you will see in the background.
So in terms of getting a link, like I said, it's essentially you open a piece of skull, you remove about a coin-sized piece of skull, and then the robot inserts the electrodes. We'll talk more about that later. Then the device replaces the portion of skull that was removed, and we basically close that up with actually super glue, which is how a lot of wounds are closed, and then you can just walk around right afterwards. It's pretty cool. So this is our surgical robot. And we actually ultimately want this robot to do essentially the entire surgery. So in everything from incision, removing the skull, inserting the electrodes, placing the device, and then closing things up and having you ready to leave. So we want to have a fully automated system. And to be clear, this robot does actually work. We've used it for all of the implantations. So this shows you at sort of close-up view, which I think is actually not too gruesome, of the electrodes being inserted in the brain. And if you look closely, you'll see that it's a little counterintuitive that if the electrodes are inserted very carefully, that there's no bleeding. And so if you have very tiny electrodes, and if they're inserted very carefully, so that the robot actually images the brain and makes sure to avoid any veins or arteries, so that the electrodes can be inserted with no noticeable damage. So you will have no noticeable neural damage in inserting the link.
Neuralink is trying to make the surgery as simple as possible and as automated as possible with the help of a robot. And they provide a couple of arguments why we want to use the robot. And the main one is the precision of inserting the electrodes into the brain. I don't really understand nothing about surgery or the brain itself, to the matter of fact, but all I can understand is that you just go into the hospital, you have this automated surgery by a robot for like 2 hours. Each time the surgery is the same for each person, so it's easier to trust it, it's easier to go and do it, and I myself, if I would get that Fitbit for my skull, I would actually much more trust a robot than any random surgeon. Not saying that surgeons are not precise, but the robots will be the same. So if like 10,000 people go, have the surgery, and it's fine, most likely I'll be fine as well. So yeah, now regarding the testing of the device, we actually test it on pigs at the moment, and they show off a couple of pigs. Some of them have the Neuralink, some of them had it but now have it removed, and there's one pig which has like 2 Neuralinks.
Well, I'll walk right over and show you. So what we have in pen number 1 is Joyce, and she does not have an implant. Obviously healthy and happy. We're trying to get Gertrude out. This is how you know it's a live demo. She's like, she's trying to eat something in the corner of her pen. Come on, Gertrude. Let's go. Snacks are this way. Oh, man. All right. We'll wait. We'll give Gertrude a second, and we'll move on to Dorothy. Sometimes the pigs are a little shy. So here's Dorothy. And in the case of Dorothy, Dorothy used to have an implant, and then we removed the implant. So this is a very important thing to demonstrate is reversibility. So if you have a Neuralink, and then you decide you don't want it, or you want to get an upgrade, and the Neuralink is removed, is it removed in such a way that you are still healthy and happy afterwards? And what Dorothy illustrates is that you can put in the Neuralink, remove it, and be healthy, happy, and indistinguishable from a normal pig. Well, thanks, Dorothy. Man, Gertrude, are you serious? Okay. This is a high-energy pig. All right. Gertrude, thanks for coming out. So what the beeps you're hearing are real-time signals from the Neuralink in Gertrude's head. So this Neuralink connects to neurons that are in her snout. So whenever she snuffles around and touches something with her snout, that sends out neural spikes, which are detected here. And so on the screen, you can see each of the spikes from the 1,024 electrodes. And then if she snuffles around, touches her snout in the ground, or you kind of feed her some food, pigs love food, then you can see the neurons will fire much more than when you're not touching the snout. And that's what's making the beeping sound. All right, cool. So as you can see, we have a healthy and happy pig Initially shy, but obviously high energy and you know, kind of loving life. And she's had the implant for 2 months. So this is a healthy and happy pig with an implant that is 2 months old and working well. Yeah.
So at this point, Elon just goes on talking about pigs, well, more about them. But essentially what they are trying to show is that whenever Gertrude's snout touches anything, we can catch that as a spike of neuron activity and say, yeah, the snout touched something. And it might seem funny at first, but when you think about it, our body is like a network of sensors, and if we touch even ourselves at one point or another, we feel that sensation, and it's really hard to measure it without wearing a costume or anything like that. And the thing is that this link device can actually sense that. There's a lot of decoding and algorithms that have to be done for that to actually work properly. But the thing is that we have the ability to do those, and this is where the whole discussion begins. Like, what's the extent of the measurements that we can do with a device like that on a consumer scale? Let's say if everyone who owns a cell phone gets a link in 10 years, and what kind of applications we could develop for that. And for data scientists, well, what could we predict? And talking about the predictions, we actually didn't only show the snout thing, but we moved on and tried to track the movement of the pig based on the signals we are getting in the brain from the neurons. And yeah, I'm just gonna show you that now.
In terms of additional brain reading activity, when we have, say, one of our pigs on a treadmill, pig on a treadmill. It's a funny concept, really. And we take the readings from the neurons, and we try to predict the position of the joints. And so we have the predicted position of the joints, and then we measure the actual position of the joints. You can see that they're almost exactly aligned. So we're able, with a wireless neural implant, to actually predict the position of all of the limbs in the pig's body with very high accuracy.
So this here is one of the most amazing things that I saw during the update that I streamed a couple of days ago, and that is that they actually can predict the movement of joints just based on the neuron activity that we are tracking within the brain. So you don't need to have any sensors on separate joints. You don't need a camera to track that. Well, you need to make the algorithms, at least I guess so, but afterwards you can just have a sensor in your brain, and that predicts everything within your body, your joint movement, what are you touching, is it hot or cold, and that is quite amazing personally to me, just because of the variety of possibilities that this opens up in our ability to track data of humans and track physical data, maybe even mental data. Maybe you could even, send a mental image telepathically to your friend via the link. And the main thing why I'm so excited about it is that maybe, just maybe, I don't really know, this will become a consumer product in some 10 years from now. And then we'll have all that data, at least I hope so, in some form or another, and we will be able to do applications for that. Maybe track the movement of humans, maybe stimulate drugs. And that goes into the direction of ethical questions already. So what about security? What about security of the mind? Like, I get the data protection from what you browse online with VPN, but what about your thoughts? Is that possible to read? It might sound silly at this point, but my guess that with version 2, 3, 4, maybe even 10, you'll be able just to send the mental image that you have in your brain to your friend via the link, and that will be the new normal. So yeah, I think I'll finish my video pretty much with this. Just a small clip from the Q&A that we had after the presentation. So this is the clip, and it basically discussed the aim of their upcoming human trials, what they want to tackle first.
So our first clinical trial is aimed at people with paraplegia or tetraplegia, so cervical spinal cord injury. We're going to enroll, we plan to enroll a small number of patients to make sure the device is safe and that it works in that case.
Yeah, so actually just to elaborate on that, if somebody is like a severe spinal cord injury, to the degree that they have very limited control even over their facial muscles, then but with this implant you can actually think just by thinking you can output words, and you can type, and you can control a computer, control a phone, and which is pretty wild. And I think something that's very exciting as a long-term application is if you can sense what somebody's trying to do with their limbs, what they want to do with their limbs, then you can actually do a second implant that's at the base of the spine, or wherever, just after wherever the spinal injury occurred, and you can create a neural shunt. So I think long-term, I'm confident that long-term it will be possible to restore somebody's full body motion. So if somebody even has a severed spine, they will be able to walk again. They will be able to use their hands. And like when you have a severed spinal cord, you essentially have broken wires. And so if you can just jump over those wires and transmit the signals over those wires, you can give somebody the ability to walk again, naturally.
So yeah, their main aim now is to try and tackle those people and try to help them. And as I said, it's just amazing the variety of possibilities that this could bring to us as a race in a whole. Like, we could just have a direct API from our brain to the computer, and computer could have the same with our brain. Just check on us if we are healthy, if everything is all right, if we are having a stroke in 5 minutes. And yeah, if you would Google around Neuralink and their progress update, you might see quite a bit of criticism. But what I mainly think is, and there's like more startups I think on Kickstarter that actually try to do the same. And I think it's great, just this thing is most followed, in my opinion. So this is why I'm sharing this one. But the main thing to take away from this is that a brain chip, a Fitbit in your skull with wires, is being brought to the consumer market, which is a bigger revolution than the mobile phone or the internet itself was. Because like, if now you think we are connected, then wait till we have this. And I think that's with what I'll end my video.